video camera. They'll make them small, won't they?
It is 6 o'clock. I call this meeting to order. I let the record show a quorum is present and notice of this meeting has been posted according with the Texas Open Meetings Act. Will you please rise for invocation? Heavenly Father, we thank you for the blessings that you have bestowed upon all of us here and in our community tonight. We thank you for the blessings of our wonderful teachers and all employees of this school district who bless our children with the gift of education and all the hard work that the entire staff of this school district does. We ask for your continued blessing on our district in good times and in bad. We ask that you open our hearts and allow the Holy Spirit to come into us and allow us to execute your will, Lord, and not ours. We ask all this in your heavenly name. Amen. First item is recognition, Dr. Arnold.
Cheryl, it's fair to have some folks recognize today.
But first, I told y'all last time about the artwork that our students had done, so I brought pictures this time. We don't actually have the artwork right now. Of course, our Western artwork was sold. But the first two that I'm going to show you, this first one right here, is part of the base artwork that went, and it was done by one of our students. I'll show you who in a minute. And she titled this, "I Can Do Anything." And this is one of our special needs students here at the primary. And he is actually blind. So that was him one day working with his braille, working in the class. And our student actually went down and met him. Her mother works in the classroom with him and also helps him with recess and PE. And she asked the mother for permission if she could paint a picture of him for the contest. And of course, his mother was just pleased that she had chosen him. She went to the primary, took photos of him while he was reading his braille books and worksheets. She asked if she could have some of the braille worksheets that he had made to put on her artwork, and they gave her some. So the entire painting is actually done on the top of a collage of his braille worksheets. And then she titled it, "I Can Do Anything," because he didn't seem to limit himself from activities because he could not see. And she was happy and wanted to do everything for him. So, in fact, the student who did it, her mother is Jill Freeman, and it's Allison Freeman, one of our juniors. And the little boy's name is Weston Wright. So, beautiful picture, beautiful, beautiful meaning behind what she did. Our next one was done by another junior, Lauren Retschke, and she titled it Linda's Boat. As all of you know, about a month or so ago, we lost one of our students in a tragic accident. And Linda made a few tiny paper boats and had another student hold them while she painted some waves and sun on the other student's hands. She took a photo and then drew them with graphite pencils. She titled it Linda's Boats because Linda Baylor was a good friend of hers, and she is still grieving from her loss. The hands represent how fragile life is, the boat represents Linda, and the water represents the tide taking her away. So, of course, a beautiful, beautiful memory there for Lauren, for Linda. Then on to our Western artwork. The first one here is by Shaylee Trammell. There's Shaylee. But there she is with her artwork. She actually placed 23rd at the San Antonio Stock Show and received about $12,000 in the auction for that photo. And there's Shaylee with her picture. The next one was our 19th place, and that was Haley Bruner. And she received around $12,000 too for hers. And there is Haley with her picture. And all these pictures were taken on the day of the auction in San Antonio. Here is the 17th place portrait, and that's by Reagan Roswell, as she received approximately $13,000 for her painting. And there is Reagan with her painting. Next, 13th place went to Amy Gastower, and she received approximately $16,000 for her artwork. And there is Amy. In 9th place is Morgan Mills, and for those of you who know Gary Garvin, that is his daughter Hannah. And on the day of the auction, Hannah went along to help Morgan sell her painting. And she had lots of words for the auctioneer during that time. They let her talk, and if y'all know Hannah, she's a little talker. So Morgan received approximately $16,000 for hers. And then the grand champion of the show is right there. Looks like a picture, not a painting. And that was done by Natalie Baker. And she received approximately $22,000 for her. So it's lots of great scholarship money for these students. Very excited for them. So I had talked about those. All those. Wanted to make sure y'all got to see the actual pictures. Next, Mr. Recker, come on up. We'll bring some trophies here. Oh, I get to hold it. You get to talk, and I get to hold it. Okay. Is your trophy better than my trophy?
Well, some of these guys are not very good. Y'all have seen them before. But the last few years, the district actually blessed us. We always compete in UIL, but we decided, you know what, let's show them how we can really compete. With the blessing of the district, we've been able to compete in the Texas Forensic Association and the National Forensic League, both organizations, 2, 3A, 1As, you don't see many of them. When we go to these competitions, it's all 4A and 5A, primarily 5A schools. And so at the National Forensic League District Tournament this year, which is a grueling tournament, you have to, in debate, you have to record 2 losses before you're kicked out of the tournament. So the tournament keeps going until you're left with 2 or 3 teams, depending on the event. And this year, we actually had national qualifiers Reed Stevens and Esteban Rodriguez Vasquez in public forum debate. They debated about whether birthright citizenship should be abolished or not, was their topic. And then on the far right, or left, depending on where you're sitting, Dustin Hurley competed in International Extem, and that's an event where you draw 3 topics over current events, you choose one, and then you have 30 minutes to prepare a maximum 7-minute speech, and you have to memorize the whole thing. So it's very, very grueling, and again, you have to be in the bottom half of a section, ranking-wise, twice before you're kicked out of the tournament, so you keep having to do this. I believe you gave 6 or 7 speeches?
It was
6 speeches before they finally got down to the national qualifiers, and Dustin qualified the nationals in that event. So they'll be going to Indianapolis for the national tournament in June. And this past March, a couple weekends ago, we actually took them to the Texas Forensic Association state tournament. This is a tournament that in order to qualify, you have to place at not just one, but several qualifying tournaments in order to get a spot. And again, it's primarily 4A and 5A schools that we compete against. Esteban competed in Student Congress and made it to finals. And in the round, just to give you an idea of some schools, he was competing against like Flower Mound, South Lake Carroll, San Antonio Johnson. We were the only 3A school in the final round, and not only did he compete in the final round, but Esteban won the entire thing. School gets some hardware, Esteban gets some hardware.
Mr. Recker got some hardware.
But anyway, so yeah.
So once again, it never seems to amazes me the great things that these kids do. Through the years, they keep coming up, and they keep doing well. So very proud of them, and of course, very proud of Mr. Recker for the program he's running.
Hey, outstanding job. Thank you.
And now I have 4 seniors for the senior spotlight. Come on up here, girls. I should let them do all the talking. No, I shouldn't. Why not? It's a long Monday after spring break, isn't it? First we have Shelby Brantley. And Shelby is the daughter of Eddie and Violet Brantley. And she has plans to attend college, where? Do we know yet? at an unknown place. There we go. She would like to go there and receive her bachelor's in chemistry, and then a master's in biochemistry, and then a doctorate in nuclear chemistry. Wow. I'd like to do basic chemistry. Her school activities include the FFA, Science UIL, and she's a member of our NHS. But she also does other activities at school. So talk a little about tennis.
I used to play tennis. I still play tennis.
Right.
It was,
But you've done it both inside and outside of
Yes,
school. So
I
talk
have
about
done
some of
inside
your
and outside.
accomplishments with it.
I made it to state last year, and I played in the state tournament. And outside of school, I've played at the highest level that we have in Texas, which is Super Champs. And I've kind of just played all around Texas and done that in high school.
And is your plan to still play college?
I do not plan to play on the varsity team at the university, but maybe intramural or club.
Okay. And what about some of your community activities?
I volunteered at the food pantry sometimes on Saturdays, and then my family's members of the First Baptist Church of Vernia. I used to volunteer at the vet office for a little while, and then I do a lot of stuff for our FFA chapter. Name and Mr. Sells.
I was going to say, I see other two that will have those same activities down there. So lots of great things. Some hard work ahead of you in college, but we wish you the best of luck. Shelby Brantley. Next is Teresa Shoemake, and she is the daughter of Susan Shoemake and Tommy Shoemake. Her plans for the future: obtain an associate degree in teaching and a doctorate degree in forensic chemistry. Wow. And you're planning on going?
To Sam Houston State University in Huntsville, Texas.
Good for you. Currently, her school activities this year, she is the president of our National Honor Society. She was a member this year of our volleyball team. She's been a member of the Vernia Speech and Debate team, and she's a member of the Nobles Council. So talk a little bit about your community activities.
I attend church at St. Hedwig, and I'm a coach for the CYO track program. And I volunteer pretty much wherever needed at the church. I do a lot of community service, of course, with the NHS, and we volunteer mainly around the school, like working with the football games or volleyball games or anything like that, and cleaning up, I guess, around the track. And
Well, that was something y'all started last year, more of a beautification thing for the school. They come up on Saturdays, and they help to clean around the school, which is nice.
And we do a lot of the blood drive at the school. And this year we started the Adopt a Family, and we go and help people, like the less fortunate people, during the holidays. And we did Thanksgiving and Christmas this year. And it's amazing to see how many families just in our community really need our help. So that was a pretty amazing experience to be a part of.
Yes, that was something all our organizations got involved in. And I think they had as much fun going and shopping and buying things for these kids as much as they enjoyed receiving them. And tell them about your interesting fact about yourself.
I do archery as a hobby, and if you don't know what that is, that's shooting a bow and arrow, and I'm pretty good at it. My stepdad is like 50-something, and I can beat him at it, so it's fun.
So you go out hunting with a bow and arrow?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you really? What have you gotten with a bow and arrow?
A small hog. It's just small hunts. It's hard, but it's fun. I can get you a lie.
No, you don't have to make up a lie. You can tell us the truth. But we wish you the best of luck next year as you move on to college. So, Teresa Shoemake. Next, we have Katie Sells, and she is the daughter of Kevin and Karen Sells. We still have the same plans for college? Junior college for a year? Or no?
Yes.
Yes. Plans on going to Palo Alto for a year and then transferring either to TLU or A&M San Antonio. And she'd like to major in math and get a master's degree in education. All still the same. Yay. We need math people. Yay. She is a member of the Vernia FFA, the National Honor Society, the Noble Council. She's currently the FFA president. She has been a member of both the junior and senior parliamentary, see, I couldn't be on that team, parliamentary procedures team, senior farm skills team, and poultry evaluation team, and she travels all over and shows steers. So talk a little bit about your community activities and your steer shows if you like, because you've been all over the place.
Well, I'm a member of the St. Anne's Catholic Church here in Vernia, and since I was little, I've been an altar server, and then after I was confirmed, I became a Eucharistic minister, and then I just volunteer like with our picnics and stuff like that, and then I help out with the LV Angels and many other community things, and then, too many. And then, yes, I do show steers. I have since I was in 3rd grade. And yes, we travel. I go to many prospect shows during the summer, and then this year I went to San Antonio, and I placed my Brahmin steer. It was 2nd there. And then I placed here in Vernia. So.
She's had a very successful career both with FFA and with her animals. So, why a math teacher? Why math?
I've always loved math. Actually,
Miss Rupp's cheering over here.
Actually, Miss Gendrich, Mr. wife, actually, she inspired me to be a math teacher, so that's actually why.
Good for you. Good for you. So, best of luck to you, Katie, and good at math. I could never teach math. Y'all know my math skills. We've talked about that. So, thank you. Down on the end, Brooke Young. Brooke is the daughter of Bobby and Tracy Young, and she plans. Well, we won't talk about where she's going to school. No. We do need to talk about where you're undecided. Oh, I don't have to say that nasty Texas A&M right now.
It's either A&M or Arkansas.
Oh, well, good for you. I didn't know about that. Are you still planning on majoring in animal science?
Poultry science.
So good for Brooke there. Her extracurricular activities include the FFA, and I'm going to tell you, those 2 advisors, well, all 3 of these girls that are involved in FFA, they are constantly down in that ag shop. They're there bright and early in the morning doing things. They're helping fill out paperwork. They're bringing things to me. Help, sign this, do this. We need help with this. But they get it all done. They do a great job. She also travels all around showing steers and turkeys, and she is currently on the poultry judging team. So talk a little bit about your animals. Talk about your community stuff.
I, like Katie, am involved in LV Angels and anything around the community I can help in. And I showed in San Antonio, and I placed 1st in my class this year. And I showed at Houston with the turkeys, and also made the sale and in Austin.
Yes, and she did an excellent job here in Vernia this year, too. She's a tough act to follow in the auction ring. So she's done an excellent job. She's represented Vernia High School. And her interesting fact, and we have tasted some of the stuff she cooks, she loves to cook and bake. So she has been known to bring us cakes to school and some other treats and goodies. So hope you continue on with that. You do a very good job with that.
Thank you.
So once again, Brooke Young. Next month we'll have more singers.
Thank you. Great job.
This time we'll move into the public forum. Black, Ricky Black. I'll let you into junior high. Hello, Mr. Black.
Thank you, Board, for the opportunity to address you this evening. I have a challenge for each of you. I challenge you to engage a group of Vernia Junior High students and strike up a conversation about technology. What will you hear is a story after story of computers that don't work for the kids or the teachers, or simply are not available. How they can't use flash drives on some of them to save their work. How they are assigned group projects but are never taken to the lab during class time, and the lab is closed or has limited availability after school. One antiquated computer lab for more than 700 students is insufficient. As parents, we are aware and are thankful for the efforts of Mr. McKeska. We just believe that every day, every month, every school year that goes by, the students continue to endure the lack of access to adequate technology only weakens them academically. We'll be requesting a technology inventory for the district. We'll be asking the school to help us understand the current technology plan. We also want to know that you have a process in place to equitably distribute technology, ensuring the distribution focuses on the students first, then the teachers, then the staff, and finally the administration. As parents, professionals, and interested students, we want to do our part. We want to support the school in any way possible to secure the type of 21st century technology our kids need to compete. We are aware of the difficulties of the recent budget cuts. For this reason, more than any, there needs to be a long-term strategic plan that includes resources and creative solutions that include the expertise of many citizens and parents. Thank you, Board.
Darla Howard, academic foreign language, visibility, and accountability. 5 minutes of time.
Hello, my name is Darla Howard, and I have 3 children in the district, a 6th grader, 2nd grader, and 1st grader. I come here today because I'm concerned about a decline in academic standards. I am blessed to have the means and the methods to make up for LVI ISD deficiencies by taking my kids to various things, Kumon, Spanish immersion programs, like skill building. But do I have to take them to San Antonio for physical education deficiencies too? I'm not here for a witch hunt unless having people do their job and holding them accountable is considered a witch hunt. I do not care if you are a teacher, parent, administration, school board member, you have a job and you should be accountable. As a parent, I am also accountable for my child's education and to support this community. As a concerned parent, I have volunteered for a committee which was to help the district come up with a program to help with the implementation of the STARS. It's the test which is to replace the tax. We met one time in the spring of 2011 and that is it. I've spoken for stronger discipline and dress code after violations I've seen at school functions. I have even brought my own form giving the district the permission to use corporal punishment for my kids since we have it in our policy procedure, but have no intent on using it. Discipline for students seems to be lacking and the support for our teachers is waning. To ensure academic success, I take my kids to Kumon 1 time a week. My 2nd grader, who would have been repeating 1st grade if I had not taken the initiative, the school did not help us improve his reading test scores or his reading. The teachers didn't have the resources to give my child an extra assistance. In the 15 months, my son, Riley Howard, has gone from below grade level, reached grade level by the end of 1st grade, and is now in the 2nd grade reading on a 3.5, which is an improvement of 2 grade levels. No thanks to LVSID. Why is our library without books, an accelerated reading program? Why are there no materials to help parents when their child is not succeeding? In regards to language, LVSD is choking our kids' future by not offering an immersion program in Spanish. I regret the day I decided to move here because my one son was in the dual language program at SCUSCISD. My other children would have automatic placement there. But we moved here when he was in the 4th grade, and I was under the impression he was going to start here soon. Recently told we did not have the demographics to support a program such as this, but other school districts do. And speaking to former principals Palmer, Woodenstein, even McKeska and Dr. Fisher, they all understand its importance, and I'm going to tell you the importance. I'm not talking about a program that says turn to page 2, como se llama, but do you know the importance of starting an immersion program? 65% of the world speaks Spanish. Studies show that you can learn an average of 15 different languages under the age of 5, but at the age of 15, only 5 on average. Our children in this district are not going to get into medical school or dental school in Texas because of the inability to speak Spanish. I spoke to UTSA Medical and Dental School, which is #1 in the nation with over 4,000 applicants, and they accept 90 applicants. Of that 90, 80 of them can speak Spanish, and those that could not were of African, Asian, Middle Eastern descent. I also have offered a donation to the school and bring in my own Rosetta Stone because something is better than nothing. So please start a program next year. My last issue, which I also brought to the middle school, and Dr. Fisher, and I don't blame them, is to address the childhood obesity, which is an epidemic. The principal McCaskill and I thought the lesson plans were turned into the athletic directors, and like there are at the 6 schools within the district that we compete in Comel, Waco, and Umkemah ISD. And at the time of this meeting, I have not been informed who evaluates the physical educators. But I blame the teachers of the classroom for failing to turn in lesson plans and the failure to teach the TEKS, which is the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skill. There have been no PE units of soccer, baseball, horseshoe, rowing, fishing, dancing, the list goes on. And there's been no cross-curriculum or activities and learning with other core subjects. My son, for 6 months, has played knockout 21 pickup basketball games, ran, and dodgeball, which has been banned and is against the law. And how are you coming up with children's grades when there's absolutely no written work and test? And what is sad is that I moved here because athletics and academics were strong. And at one time admired Hinonosa. It saddens me to see the laziness of just rolled out the ball image of a physical educator. The two ADs tell me that physical education is not their business. How can one say that when it spills over in athletics? Then what are those two doing to earn their paycheck? And why am I sending Mr. Hinonosa and the PE staff to TAPERD, which is the Texas Association of Physical Health and Education Recreation and Dance conventions, once or twice a year for the past several years on our tax dollars if he says he is not responsible for physical education? If you've been to TAPERD, then at least that evidence should be in your lesson plans, which there is not. I was told that there was an email sent out recently requesting for those lesson plans to be written. Really, after the fact, does one think that it will cover it up and make it okay? How are you going to hold those people in that position accountable for a job they have not done? And by the way, where is the $4,000 that was given to the physical education department from last year's PTO? I did write I'm writing on an open records response that I gave to Dr. Fisher, which I'll be getting on the 21st. And I will, I guess, seek grievance once I find that information out. And I hope I'm not alone in filing a grievance.
Notice on your subject, you have contract extension, please.
Just a quick, I won't address any of nothing.
No, just be careful first.
I will.
Okay.
Good evening. Many times as a parent, I tell my children, just because you can doesn't necessarily mean you should. I feel this holds true for our board meeting here tonight. District policy BE local states, when determined necessary and for the convenience of trustees, the board president may change the date and time of a regular meeting. January, February, March of this year, this board has changed for convenience the date and time of the meeting. Board policy also states that meetings will be held at 7 p.m. In the many years that my family has been here, this district has had its meetings regularly at 6:30. The community would like some consistency to the date and time of board meetings. It makes it difficult for the community to engage when the meeting time is conveniently moved around, keeping community members on their toes. It would also seem as if this board does not want the community to know when the meetings are being held. Appearances are everything, especially now. It seems to send a message to this community: we want to meet in secret. Not your words, but my feelings by the way these meetings have been moved around in the last 3 months. Please place these meetings back on their third Monday at 6:30. I can occasionally see moving the meeting date and time, but in light of the controversy in this district, I don't think it's a good idea. It sends a bad message. One other just side note, we pray before the meeting, but why don't we say the pledge?
We live in America. At the city meetings, we both pray and pledge. I think it'd be a good addition to your meetings. Next to the contract extension. Recently, this board met to evaluate the superintendent. We'll never know the extent of that evaluation. That's the law. Maybe there are good things happening as a direct result of the superintendent's tenure in this district. Frankly, from my perspective, the bad outweighs the good. However, board members, you must be seeing something the rest of us don't see. You, the board of trustees, keep saying there are good things happening in our district, but we don't hear about the good things. You won't communicate, good or bad. We would love to know what good things are happening in this district. I often tell my kids that the bad things outweigh the good you're doing. You have to do good all the time. Negative always outweighs positive. It's just human nature. Board members, I respectfully request that you have some town hall meetings and let us know the good. Good or bad, a contract extension in this economic climate does not make good business sense. What company these days gives even their best employee a 5-year contract? In light of all of the allegations flying in this district, why extend the contract at this time? Why not let these allegations settle down and in a year or so, if need be, extend then? Mr. Fredericks, thank you.
This year, and the board is asked when would be convenient for everybody to meet. We did it last year, we didn't hear anything. We did it this year, and so be it. It's a 13-week process. We meet every Monday night for 3 hours, and we try to get some men to go on retreat for our church with us. And the meetings are 3 months long, and this is the last month. In fact, tonight is our last meeting. So then in April, we'll be back to normal schedule. But that's the same thing that we've done, and I apologize if that offended anybody. And also regarding the five-year contract, I did a little research on TASB Data Central, and there are 20% of the superintendents in the state of Texas have a 5-year contract, 7% have 4 years, and 63% have 3 years. So we're not alone, and I just wanted to let you know that's kind of where we're at as far as the state of Texas. So my source was the TASB HR Services Data Center. Thank you, Ms. Wachigamba. Karen Kamo. No? Is that right? Is 5 minutes enough now?
Vernia ISD Board, Mr. Harvey, administrators, parents, students. I'm here tonight to address the trustees of the LV ISD School Board. I want to start by thanking you for your service to our community, to our school district. Thank you for the many hours that you volunteer. It does not go unrecognized. My name is Karen Como. I'm a mother of 3. I have a daughter that graduated from LV ISD last year. I have a 3rd grader at our intermediate school. And I also have a daughter that's in the 6th grade that I'm currently homeschooling. My husband and I came to the conclusion that the junior high school, under the supervision of a completely new administration and under a fraud investigation would most likely not be the most conducive learning environment for our sixth grader. We recognize that it's a blessing that we can have the benefit of homeschooling. I'm a former classroom teacher, and that gives me the confidence that I can meet her educational needs. Unfortunately, I did not have that same confidence in the Vernia Junior High. And please let me clarify that it has nothing to do with the teachers. I feel like they are equipped. But this decision spoke to a stressful, unstable environment in which they have been forced to teach. However, my concern tonight is specifically the lack of responsiveness of this particular school board when it comes to communicating with the concerned group of parents in this community. I wrote to every board member of the Vernia School Board on March 7th, 2012. It's been 13 days. I received no response until this afternoon from one person. I asked specifically for an explanation for why Dr. Harvey's contract would be extended at this time for 5 years when a fraud investigation is being conducted in our district, and we as a community and you as a school board have no idea what the conclusion of that investigation is going to be, or who, if anyone, is going to be implicated. This is not an accusation. It was an irresponsible decision, given that there is nothing that binds your school board to make that decision at that time. As a concerned parent in this district who wants the best for our students, for our faculty, I believe that we have a right to know the answer to that question. Why? Over the past 2 weeks, 6 parents have notified me that they too emailed all members of the school board. 2 responses were received from Mr. Frederick. That leaves 47 emails that went unanswered in a 2-week time period. That to me is unacceptable. I called the school district this morning, I called the admin office, and I asked, how can we get in touch with our school board members? We have an email address that no one is responding to. And the response was, that is the only way. It seems strange to me that a group of elected officials don't feel obligated to respond to parents in a school district. I understand there's a grievance process, but Mr. Gendrish, Mr. Watson, Ms. Gimbel, Mr. Belichick, Mr. Barnett, Mr. Shearer, don't you want to hear from your parents in a time other than just when they're grieving? We want to be able to provide feedback to this school board and to be acknowledged that the feedback was given. I mentioned earlier that I'm a teacher, was a teacher. My open door policy included a stipulation. You don't get to complain unless you have a suggestion or a solution. My suggestion to this school board is to not publicize an email address that you will not respond to, and to please provide the concerned parents who are here tonight with a proper means to effectively get in touch with you. Finally, I want to just conclude by saying I fully expect this board is going to respect these concerns that we're bringing forth tonight. We are all here for the same reasons, the students. We're all here for the same reasons.
Thank you very much. Ms. Raines? Is 5 minutes enough?
Yes, sir.
Be careful with the personal stuff.
Okay. Good evening, my name is Michelle Raines. I recently resigned from the junior high. I want to say that I love my community, I love our schools. I'm not on the witch hunt, but I am begging for relief and serious change. Maybe some honesty would be nice. Tonight I want to speak to you a little bit about bullying. Bullying is not uncommon practice in today's schools. Although it is something that school employees work hard daily to minimize with hopes of complete eradication, but I'm not wanting to talk to you about students this evening. I'm going to speak to you about bullying that occurs in the workplace. Make no mistake about it, workplace bullying is prevalent and flourishing in LVISD. I witness this routinely during my employment with the district. Its presence is an atrocity, and the collateral damage from it is the greatest tragedy of all, the children in our community. The workplace bully in America's school is a taker, a robber, a thief. The bully steals the dignity, self-esteem, confidence, joy, happiness, and quality of life of the targeted victim. As a workplace bully victim, I fully and completely understand the pain and suffering one endures. But when the target is a teacher or school employee, a greater injustice occurs because the bully robs the students of what they want, need, and deserve. A teacher who loves them, cares for them, who comes to work every day and gives all she has to these wonderful, deserving children. They are not receiving an outstanding education. A great tragedy occurs every day in America's schools as thousands of children are robbed by the workplace bully of the right to be nurtured and taught by such honorable, caring, and outstanding educators. I sent 2 emails to each of you regarding some serious allegations of bullying and things that I have been through in the past year and a half. I only received 3 responses after the 2 emails I sent. These allegations were serious, and I had not contacted you ever before. I introduced myself in the first email, and after I sent you that email, the very next day I was called into Mr. McKeska's office. And the reason I had sent you the first email was because I had received an anonymous letter like all of you. And I was called into Mr. McKeska's office the very next day. I sent you all an email, and I was told that he had been asked to call me in to say that, yes, sir.
That's factual personnel stuff, and I think we need to stay away from that, only to protect.
But when is it ever going to be? I've tried.
There's a grievance policy.
But now it's past the 15 days. I didn't want to grieve my new boss.
But we can't discuss it here, is what I'm trying to say.
When can we?
Why not here? She's relaying information.
We will take out first thing in the town. We don't do that.
I was only, Mr. Fredericks contacted me after my first email and said that there is a grievance policy and I would need to go through the policy. I was scared to do a grievance. I mean, I've never been through anything like this in my life. Plus, he was a new boss, and I didn't want to start a relationship off that way.
What we probably need to do, and again, I know there's personnel related, you're going to start. So what I think we need to do is we need to follow up on your email and take it there. That way we don't discuss anything in the public forum regarding personnel. I don't. But that's the best.
You're not an employee anymore.
You got some more.
That's certainly what I'm trying to make sure that we don't cross the line in person.
What would be the best way to get a hold of you? Because I have tried. I've tried getting hold of each of you. What is the best way?
The email I would imagine.
But you even said on your email that you typically don't respond. I have the email.
Read it.
Let's open it.
All right. We will follow.
When you give us a date, I'd like to know a date.
That concludes the public forum. We will move into the action items. First item is consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
We have a motion made by Mr. Frederick, seconded by Mr. Littleton to approve the consent agenda as presented. All in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Next item, consider change to local resident policy, Louisville Hall.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to talk to you. I have a memorandum which is the Vernia United Methodist Church. I'm also the chairman of the Staff Parish Relations Committee. Our current pastor is getting ready to retire.
here.
Speak into the microphone.
Okay, is that better? Okay, our current pastor is retiring at the end of June. We've recently been assigned a new pastor from Goliad. We have a problem with the residents who are looking for rentals, and part of the problem is the financial situation of the whole country. Our churches, like all other businesses, are having some financial difficulties. We talked about getting a parish. Right now, it's getting financing and this sort of thing is difficult in the current climate. We can find some rentals and possible places to buy outside of the school district. However, our new pastor has a 7-year-old and an 11-year-old. We prefer go to school in the Vernia School District because that's where most of the children that are going to be going to school with. And we'd like for those children to be with them at all times, instead of going all the way to Floresville or any other school district. One of the houses we were looking at is currently in the Floresville School District, right outside of the Vernia School District. I'm not only asking this for my church, but all of the churches. I mean, we have plenty of churches that do go right directly across the street from the schools here in Vernia. And my request is to change the policy that if you have a pastor going preaching here or ministering here in the Vernia School District, they also have the children, that their children will be allowed to go to school here. I know that there is one variance, whereas the grandparents who take care of the children after school are allowed, those children are allowed to attend in the Vernia School District. This is not unlike what would be happening here, especially in our church. We have a after-school program in our child care ministry, and that's where they would be going anyway. And that's basically all I really would like to do, is if we could get the school district to allow the pastors and ministers that are ministering to the people in this community to also allow their children to go to school here instead of having to go someplace else. Thank you for allowing me to come and talk before you.
Discussion. Mr. President, I did call the attorneys about that. They said that if the trustees wanted to rewrite that policy, that they could look at it and send it to TASB to be put in the proper format. The idea would be, and I hope it makes sense what he's saying, we make an exception for the employees of the school district to have their children come here. Then if you have a grandparent who provides substantial care and you're a taxpayer here, and he's requesting that if you are a pastor of a church that's located in the Vernia School District, that they too give an exception for their children to attend. I have no real feeling on that. That's a policy decision you will have to make. But if you want it to be considered, I can certainly get it put in format for you to see in written form. And you can make a decision, or if it's not, if you don't want to pursue. This really just needs some direction. And if you sent me to do the work, doesn't mean it's passed. You know, you would have to be put in the correct format for you to consider.
Do we know if other school districts have similar, I'll call it waivers or whatever for?
Now, there are some school districts that allow anyone to transfer in. And so they just, if you want to transfer to that school district, they let you transfer.
But you pay tuition.
That's correct. Well, if the policy said pay tuition.
Right.
Because in the modern climate, I will just share with you based on that conversation with that question, and it pertains to here too, is that regardless of the local tax base, and I'm hearing is what would be the financial implications. The reality of it is the tax base is not amended or adjusted at all, because what happens, you get X number of dollars per student. And regardless of what the local take is, the state reduces or adds to that portion that much per kid. So to some school districts, they let the transfers come in with no tuition because they don't need a limiter. They're trying to encourage it to maximize tax dollars.
So it's zero sum for us,
That's
right?
correct.
You don't have the tax base, the
That's
state
correct.
kicks in, there's two more students here.
That's correct.
And as they move out, obviously, they're taking.
Right. Right.
But some people do have limiters on it. Some people actually, make people apply. They have a process where they apply, much like you go to private school. They look at the school, the grades, they talk about discipline. They get a contract for their attendance. I mean, they do that. Others just let any transfers, and some allow none.
Is there, if you allow somebody in, is there a limitation if they misbehave? I mean, if they're allowed in under one of his exceptions and they're a problem student, they're just a problem, is there a way to, they've got to go?
You have to write that in your policy. And the state law is currently, I was at a district that we got $12,000 a child some many years ago, and we didn't mind students coming in. What we did is we looked at the class grade levels that would be appropriate, and if you could let another student come in at the right grade level, and it was a small school. And so they were very cautious about that. So you would write a contract that would say, if you misbehave, poor attendance, whatever, then it can be revoked. I will tell you that the transfer rules, whenever I was doing that, and this was many years ago, so some things could have changed, but at that time, you could only revoke the transfer at the end of the school year. So if someone came in, you had to give them a full year to look at it, and those revocations would take at the end of the year. Now that used to be the law, and I had to do some research on it.
Well, as a person, I'd be interested in looking into it more. My concern would be that it's equitable across all organizations. You know, if there's other similar type organizations.
Like what?
I don't know. I don't. Nothing's coming to mind. But like if we're in San Antonio, and maybe you had a Haven for Hope or something, where you know, giving the community, help the community in significant ways.
So you want to open it up to all religious and community organizations, or just?
Well, I don't know what else has been done out there, but I think if an organization is based in our community and helps our community.
Like the Red Cross would do.
Yeah, like Red Cross, whatever, and I mean, churches are given that they sort of do that, but I wouldn't want to exclude non-churches.
Right, I think it's a good idea. You know, the idea would be to serve the community, then you could consider application. Is that what you do?
I guess, you know, it's just, how do you define all this? I think that's going to be the hard part.
I guess
Yeah, how do you you obviously want to draw a box around it, right?
Right, yeah.
So it's how do you define who's eligible? And I think that's going to be what the attorneys are going to struggle with, I think, more than anything. And I bet they're going to come back and ask us,
They're going to ask you to define it.
They're going to ask
I think the pastors of a church in a local community, that's more defined. But the question is, do you limit to numbers, the first 20? I mean, there are ways that you can do that. It's just that we would have to look at it. They would want to know, how are you defining how many can come? And I don't think, I will be honest with you, I don't think you want to open it up just for full transfer in. The one day before the spring break, Kristen, was 8 people called on to transfer her kids to her school. And there was a lady today that wanted to, you know, she worked in our community, and because she worked here, felt as though she would like to have her kid come here, but she lived in Florida. Well,
that's what I was going to ask you. Say the manager of HEB worked here and wanted to come in. I mean, you'd be on the same thing too. You've got to look at it.
When you talk about tuition for parents, or the teacher that lives outside the school, she brings their kid, are they subject to tuition?
no, we do not make them pay tuition.
Policy says that, no
Yes.
tuition?
That's correct.
Now, we have, in the past, the Vernia has made other pay tuition, just not the parents.
In fact, the very first school board meeting that I attended, Mrs. Bettine actually led the meeting, and it was wrapping down all of that. David, you were new on the board, and they were wrapping down the paying tuition because we were growing so fast. We couldn't let others attend, and then the local taxpayers had to build the school. So it was concerned that you could have 200 transfers, which would be quite a bit of things. If you're looking at the number of like this, Mr. Paul, I'm sorry, I forgot your name for a second. He's just recommended the pastors. So there's a limiter there. Is it worth it? Is it what you want to do? That's the question.
Well, again, I think it's worth looking into.
Yeah.
We get more information.
Get several policies, maybe of what people do for transfers.
Well, and I was on the community, maybe, I mean, nonprofit.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I
See if the attorneys can take a stab at the community deal. Maybe that's an option. You know, option one would be just the pastors, and option two would be pastors and community deal.
Well, so far we've had one person that had a really good suggestion of the possibilities of it. The rest of the people, really, no one's ever put an exception out there, right? That I know of.
Do we need to make a motion?
No, I can do it. I just didn't want to do a bunch of work if you guys aren't even remotely interested.
But I think we're saying we're interested for sure.
Just probably look at it.
Thank you.
As soon as he gets the word that we need or the information we need, we will put it back on the agenda. And if not, Harvey has your number, we can contact you. Is that fair enough?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Paul.
Next item is community ed report.
Well, you know I'm going to have a handout. It is all one handout. Okay, so I just wanted to give you a very brief update on where we are with our community education program. As you know, last year we ventured into uncharted territory and we started our community education program here in Vernia. And we sent out surveys to a lot of our parents, most of our, all of our parents actually, and got some responses back, and that's where we really received the topics that we wanted to implement in community education last year. And although this year we did not send out another survey, we did get some information from parent involvement committees that were held earlier this fall at every campus. So we met with them and got some input from parents on each campus. And anyway, we will be surveying again, sending out another survey later in the spring so that we can plan for our fall. So I wanted just to give you an update on some of the offerings. You may have seen these on the web. But basically, we've already had one where we had Joe Mascaro, and we have had two people coming back because of popular demand. And Ms. Mascaro has received rave reviews. She talks about dealing with difficult children, but really it's all of our children. And so that's already been held, and we had full house on that one. Tonight, Shape Up for Spring is starting. As we speak, they're probably finished, although I hear that Coach Reyes is pretty much of a taskmaster, so they may still be there. You might be able to catch a little exercise before you go home. But that's starting tonight, and our own coaches, Hinojosa and Coach Reyes, are leading that. So that's going on, and then we have a Read to Succeed for parents of young children. Dr. Mary Bruce Moore, who you may remember, she came and talked about her pre-K grant. Another very popular presenter. She's going to be having a session next week on the importance of reading with young children. And then our own Mr. Alan Bordelon, Director of Technology, is going to be offering 2 sessions, Computer Basics and Introduction to the Internet, and Email and Online Safety. And then last but not least, We have one that I know that you're all going to sign up for, Italian Delights Pasta Making Made Simple. And actually, I'm not kidding, because I think that's going to be very exciting. Our own Julie LaSurgeon, who runs our culinary arts program, is going to be actually presenting the session, or working with the session, and she's going to bring in some of our culinary arts students. So we're very excited about that. So it'll give them an opportunity to showcase their talents. And she's actually going to make homemade pastas and sauces. So I think that's going to be fun. Anyway, I've attached flyers to this. You have the schedule, and for those in the audience, I have some extra schedules if anybody wants to get those. But I've attached the flyers. These flyers have been posted around the community and in our schools. I didn't give you the one for the one that was already held, but you have those. And we may certainly add some sessions. In fact, Dr. Harvey attended a chamber meeting and heard a speaker there who wanted to, I guess the chamber wants to partner with, or they would like to. She works out of UTSA. I'm waiting for her to get back with me. And she does a series of presentations on social networking and small businesses. And so we're trying to get something together that she might be able to do for us here and partnering with some of the other local communities. Did you have anything to add to that? That's all I know about it.
She was a great speaker. Businessmen and women that were at the meeting thought that it'd be great if she could have a full seminar. Right. And I think it was, I gave you the information.
4 hours. She's going to
training.
do 2 2-hour sessions. And I guess the people at the meeting were very, very impressed and thought it was a good idea to follow through. So waiting for her to get back. So we may add some more. And really for a small district like ours, I think last year was pretty successful for the first year. And hopefully we'll be able to continue. So I just wanted to kind of give you an update. Do you have any questions or ideas? Or if you have any ideas, anybody has any ideas for community ed courses to offer, we're happy to hear them. And this whole thing grew out, we had a community involvement committee 2 years ago. And this was one of the main things that came out of that committee, recommendations. Questions? Okay. So I will see you at the pasta making.
Thank you, Dr. Next item is policy update 93.
Trustees, I mailed you a copy of update 93, or actually Christy did, and received a few questions so far about it. If you have some questions, give me a call. I can certainly call Tasby on some of the things, and we'd be glad to get back with you. We typically read them, as you know. You read them, and then we come back with answer your questions, and then you consider it next month. Any questions you might have now? Most of the time, as you know, what happens is the legislators meet, they change the laws, or there's been some kind of major court case that's been resolved, and they come back and change the legal policies, and then they send it to you almost verbatim, and then they recommend some local policies for you. And that's how they do it.
We'll vote on that next month. Next item, ESC 20 Board of Directors election.
Mr. President, the new Service Center Director has recommended sort of a new way of electing their directors. He's the executive director, but they have much the same way that we have trustees, they have trustees. And what they have done in the past is we would send in some votes based off a ballot they would give us. And this time they've sent us 7 separate ballots, and 4 people are running, and you're to mark the 3 that you think that you'd like to have served. Just a little different twist on how he's doing it. So you were given the names of those that were running for brief review. You had Mr. Miss Kay Franklin from San Antonio. She retired from Northside Deputy Superintendent. And she gave you her resume there. And you have a Ronald Eckel from Pope. He's been on the board of directors since 2009, and you can certainly see his resume there too. Then you have a Mr. Frederick E. Maples, Elmendorf, and you see their resume, if you thought that's who you would want to vote for. And I think the first three must be, from what I gathered, Janice, weren't those incumbents? I think they were incumbents. Then you have a Richard Ruthcorn from Stockdale. And he's currently the executive director at the Loving Gardens Hospice. If you will mark your ballot sometime soon. Kristen, do you know the deadline to get that in? That's by the 2nd. So if you want to go ahead and mark your ballot and give it your now, or if you want to send it to me later, that'd be cool too. Any questions on that? The Service Center does a great service for us. They really provide a lot of expertise and a lot of hours where we need the help, particularly in a district our size. If you have a huge district, many times you would have a huge central office staff, and without the Regional Service Center, we would have a hard time. They're really quality people and do outstanding work.
Yeah, I've seen where it's signed.
It does not, they're numbered. Those ballots are numbered. I don't think you have to sign them at all.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Region 20 provides us a whole lot of really good things. I'm just curious, size-wise, how do they compare to the other regions in the state? Or do we want a bigger one or smaller one? Any idea?
I really don't have an idea. I do know that if you look at ESC 20, you've got quite a few big schools there. That you go to another region, like in rural East Texas, you'll have a whole lot of small districts. So Region 13 is out of Austin. They used to divide up responsibilities more than they do now, where one would take one state responsibility and another. And I'll share with you that there are some legislators that would just get rid of the service centers. And it's a frightening thought to me, because they really provide a good service. Think about the training we get, think about the support we get, think about the expertise that they provide.
Moving right along, number 6, technology follow-up.
Good evening, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to address you again. Just have a few things. As I said, last board meeting when I was here, we were talking about the fact that we had recognized the need for more bandwidth, and we're bringing in the 40 megabit circuit that gives us over 4 times the bandwidth on the internet. That circuit's actually been physically installed at this point and is in the testing stages, so that new bandwidth should be coming online throughout the district in the next few weeks. But today I wanted to update you, as I kind of mentioned last time, on some of the other things we're doing in concert with that. We're always looking at what we're doing and looking for areas where we can grow and improve responsiveness and all on the network. So one of the neat things that I mentioned to you all briefly at a couple of the previous meetings that we activated during spring break and are going to be having some of the staff and students testing. With a thin client, you have the advantage, like we said, for instance, in a room where you may have special needs students, no matter where you go on a thin client, you see your desktop with your icons and your programs, and you have everything available to you. But the problem had always been, just like those of you at work that have a desktop computer, when you go home, you have a different computer. You don't have all your files and access to everything. Well, over spring break, under our VMware vSphere, which is our cloud operating system, we've now opened the external gateway. So at this point, anyone that has an account on the thin client is able to actually remotely from any web browser anywhere in the world log in not only to their desktop and see all their icons, but also all of their files. One of the neat things about remote access in this way is not only does it let you have access to all your files, but like for instance, if you have a particular program, like at high school, I know Ms. Maldonado uses QuickBooks with the students. And QuickBooks is something very few of us have at home. Because the thin clients actually run your computer session in our servers here on our premises, any of the software that you use here during the day, whether you're a student or teacher, you can access remotely via the thin client access. So even if a student was needing to catch up on work or needed to work ahead because of needing to be out, let's say, for an FFA activity or something, they would be able to access not only their files but our software from anywhere. One of the other good things about this is, as we've said, we're going to cloud-based access to our P drives where the students and teachers store their data, because in the old days you had the floppy disks, and years back those were one of the ways that viruses commonly came in. Nowadays they've been replaced by these little USB memory sticks, which are a good way to store files, but they have weaknesses in that they can convey viruses very easily. You can lose them very easily because they're so small. Whereas if you have access to your data on the cloud from any web browser, you don't have to carry something around with you that can get infected from another computer. You actually have access to your files anywhere you are. So that's one of the important things of opening up this gateway to the thin clients. That way students and teachers can extend their work and their learning 24/7 from anywhere they are. So we're going to begin piloting in the next few days with a group of teachers and students so we can put together some instructions and questions and answers that people can use to understand how the system works and then make it available to others. So next board meeting, I'm going to set up a little demonstration so you can kind of see what that looks like when you bring one up, and I'll bring one of our Verizon wireless MiFi hotspots so that the computer's actually sitting on the outside of our network. Because as you know, a lot of times things look different on the inside than they do when you're on the outside where a student or teacher would be. One of the other neat things we're doing...
Can I suggest maybe you bring a student and demonstrate that?
So that's a good idea.
Someone from the junior high.
Oh, okay. We'll bring a student to demonstrate it. So one of the next things, over the Christmas holidays, we put in new switches in most of our wiring closets to upgrade the speed of the local area networks within the school. And just like we've been working on increasing the speed of the networks within the school and increasing our internet access, the other thing we've been working on is increasing the bandwidth between the schools in our server farm and the bandwidth between the servers. So we're in the process in the next couple of months of upgrading from the gigabit Ethernet that we've used, which most people out in schools are still using and businesses too. We're upgrading from the gigabit Ethernet that carries 1 billion bits of information a second to the new 10 gig Ethernet that carries 10 billion bits of information per second. So that will give us much better performance between the servers that host our cloud and the thin clients, as well as the individual school sites, and let us transfer data more quickly. And the other thing, over the summer, we're going to be doing some server upgrades. We added a few months back a new SAN that put in a lot more disk capacity and gave us more storage space for us and the students and made access to files more responsive. This summer we'll be adding in again some new server blades that add in more memory and more processors. Because as we extend to more and more thin clients, that ensures that we always keep it nice and responsive. And I was at a training last week. Some of the new blade servers they have, the current ones, typically one of those server blades, if you were to walk into our server farm, it can host about 100 to 150 thin clients. The new ones that are out can actually host up to 500 thin clients. So they've come a long way in the processing and memory capability. So we're going to be doing that expansion. But the most exciting thing we're going to be doing is we're on the verge, and we'll be doing it right as school's out, of rolling out Windows 7 to everyone that's on the thin client system. Windows 7 is nice because it enables some extra features and especially better processing with internet and streaming applications to be used. One reason a lot of schools have still stuck with XP as we have is in districts our size or even larger, it can literally take months for people in the old traditional setting where you have individual computers on your desk to go around, upgrade them if needed, install Windows 7 and so on, because we'll be rolling it out on the thin clients literally when we activate the Microsoft licenses. We can switch them over to Windows 7 in a matter of hours because we deal with the master image that those thin clients are based out of. So everyone on the thin clients will be able to have access to Windows 7 and all of the new tools that that provides. So that's an exciting thing. And then finally, one of the last things we're going to be working on and starting this summer is the beginning of streaming applications. Although we're going to be going to Windows 7 to enable some of the new stuff, ultimately, if we're going to really be a cloud-based entity and use web browsers, the idea is to eventually get away from things like Windows or other proprietary operating systems. And some of the newest features that have been built into VMware and vSphere actually package the Windows-like abilities and the application into one stream that you can pull up from a web browser anywhere, whether it's on an iPod, an iPad, a Mac, or a PC, so that way you're not dependent on having something like Windows 7 or XP or whatever it is that runs that program. It packages everything that needs from data files to the application into one file. So this summer we'll be showing you some of that, as we get it going in the meetings. But the most exciting things that we're getting ready to do are all at the junior high school. We have some projects that we've been working on. Dr. Harvey and I have been working with Bill McKiska since September because we realized the deficit in technology that existed on the campus, and we're trying to look at what made sense as we moved through the year and got a good handle of what the needs are. So we're getting ready through grant funding. We're about to put in 2 carts of mobile iPads. They'll have 20 Apple iPads each that can be rolled in there. There's a MacBook Air that the teacher will use to actually be able to show the students things and control some of the things they're doing on the iPads. So we have 2 great new carts with those 20 iPads each that we'll be putting into junior high and the training that goes along with them. We're also working on putting about 50 new thin client computers in the junior high so that we increase the number of student accessible computers. Because that's one of the things, you know, because we've gone down the thin client road, we're not really upgrading machines, we're expanding to more and more thin clients. So we'll be putting 50 new thin clients in there. And then one thing we had talked to Mr. McKiska about is, you know, as we improve communications both within the school and to the outside, since we put in our IP-based, internet-based phone system a couple of years back, we now have the ability not only to use traditional wired phones, but actually wireless handheld phones that work in many ways like a cell phone. You're not tethered to a network outlet on the wall. You can actually walk around and use them. So if you were an administrator that needed to communicate to someone or a teacher that might need to make some calls to arrange for something, phones like that would be available to you that aren't tied to a physical location. So we're going to be putting some wireless IP phones in there. And then finally, which we'll be bringing you more information on as we progress, because right now we've been doing some of the initial planning and kind of setting up the parameters, is we're going to be working on a BYOD initiative. You know, in the long run, any school, whether you're like us or whether you've got the kind of money that schools like Alamo Heights have, no one can afford to put enough devices in there for every student to always have a computer with them. You know, even if you were to put one in every classroom for every student, when they go out, like for maybe a field assignment or something, they can't carry those with them. So BYOD, bring your own device, is really where everything's headed. And in the coming years, more and more of the schools are going to be, supporting students using their own iPads or iPods or netbooks or anything they might have to supplement it, because the students are familiar with their own technology, they're used to using it, and these students are used to being connected at all times. So we're going to be piloting our first BYOD initiative at one of the grade levels at junior high. So we'll be talking to you as well, Mr. McKiska, as we get through the arrangements.
And then one of the other grade levels will be probably 5th grade at the intermediate.
What's
school district was that you and I communicated today, I sent you an email, was it Katie?
I believe so.
Katie ISD, what they've asked their community to do is to give them their old smartphones and old tablets, I believe, with the idea that they can be used in a positive way. Now, they don't want the old cell phones and stuff, but I think it's a real smart thing that they're doing there.
And that's one of the advantages, since we've gone to more of the cloud-based technology with things like these streaming apps. You know, the problem used to be, even if you had students that had various laptops or other devices, it would be hard for them to come in and use them productively in a lesson because not all of them have the same software or even the same operating system. They may be Apple or PC. But with the cloud, as long as the device has a web browser in it, they can actually pull up sessions running Windows or other software off of our servers. So being cloud-based really enables that. And of course, one of the big components, and we've seen this year, you know, as we've said, sometimes we still find teachers that may have a broken printer or broken projector, and even though we have procedures in place to turn in work orders, we don't hear about it for sometimes weeks or months. We also occasionally find people that aren't using what they've got to the fullest because they don't really know how to use it, and they don't say we need more training. So this summer, as we do our professional development, Dr. Fisher is working with me to put together a calendar that we've discussed in our leadership team meetings where we really provide some extra technology-based training, not only on all of the basic skills that some people may be needing depending on their circumstance, but also more of how to use all of these devices, including things like web browsers and all in the curriculum. So we have a big program we're putting together on that because we really want to give our teachers the ability to support 24/7 learning. And that's really where we're headed. In the future, everything is going to the 24/7 learning, and that's one reason we need to encourage the ability for students to use any of their devices anytime and access our information from home. So as we move through this with junior high, we'll be bringing you some pictures and all, and then next month's board meeting, like I say, we'll set up one of the remote access sessions, and as Dr. Harvey suggested, we'll bring in one of the junior high students and let them pull up their desktop. But do any of y'all have any questions for me on the things we discussed?
I have a couple comments. One, just, and I've said it before, but your presentation too, your foresight and diligence in cloud computing has been incredible.
I appreciate it.
And last year we were there, this year we're there even more. And I think probably 80% of the schools in Texas aren't aware of that because of the work that we've done on cloud computing. The trick is finishing the rest of the piece, right, to get access to the cloud. And
access is key.
To do that.
Yes, sir.
Curious over the streaming applications, when we start going down that road a lot, the security vulnerabilities become more aware. So I'm just curious, are we addressing that in any certain way, or does our protocol take care of that with some internal encryption or something?
Yeah, everything we do, like when parents or teachers log in, to even access grades, that's encrypted. And as we move forward, we're going to be putting a little more requirements on passwords. Some people tend to use much more secure passwords than others, so we're going to make sure that they have better passwords. But what we've actually seen, and that's one of the concerns with things like these USB memory sticks, most of the security problems actually come from people that are sitting here on the inside of the network. In fact, this year, all the viruses we fought have actually walked in on these devices. The security we have around the network with our firewalls and then some of the new virus streaming tools we're putting in that are cloud-based, they actually are much better at catching this stuff and keeping it out and keeping things secure than a lot of the more traditional things we used on the more traditional desktop computers. But security is a big concern because we always have to make sure anything that deals with student data or employee data is kept confidential and secure and reliable. So that is a big concern.
Is it fair also to say that we've sort of been focusing on the high school campus and planning to roll down in the technology applications, specifically the cloud? Is that
that's where more of it has probably been implemented, but a lot of that because each principal and with site-based management makes their own decisions on what they want to focus on when they have their budget money. So it happens at high school, especially because of the more advanced needs of the students and things like the speech and debate, that's where they've chosen to kind of focus their energies and their money. But some of that...
Let me chime in a little bit too. Mr. McKesson came on in July, and he started meeting immediately about the technological needs. We began working on that because that was an emphasis that he wanted to do. And of course, then at that point in time, the budget's already kicked in. He met with, I know he met with a group of parents at least a couple times, and I know he had some thoughts about how he wanted to use the money. And the reality of it is, when you spend the money, you'll make sure it's going in the right direction. And I applaud his leadership because I think he's made a real valuable and important move to better use the technology. And so he's worked with us to assist to get the needs there. And I think that you'll be shocked about the amount of money that will be spent there will be within an attainable level. It really depends on the focus of the principal.
And in addition to the focus of the principal, which is a big part, in fact, as Dr. Harvey mentioned to you at the last meeting or two, he mentioned that, we're starting some focus groups where we actually bring in people, not just on staff, but, students and even community members to kind of focus on those three big areas of where we are, where we're headed, and how we get there. So we're in the process of putting some of that focus effort together and hope to possibly have some information to bring you as early as the next board meeting, because we always try to make sure we have sufficient input to be able to direct the efforts where we really need them and see what people are feeling the needs are.
I really am excited about the opportunities that the community service will provide, and I'm glad to see folks on that. I think the teachers will appreciate it. Dr. Fisher and I were visiting in Laura too, and one of the budget things we always do with the technology follow-up here. One of the things I want you to think about as we begin to plan for the budget next year. There are a number of opportunities that we do, like the extra duty stipends and those kind of things that we work with people. One of the things that some school districts have done is create an atmosphere where the teachers can, for a small fee, buy an iPad or other equipment. And I think it'd really be smart to figure out a way for us to assist the teachers to get their phone. And my wife brought mine for me at Christmas time. And I've just about given up my laptop, my desktop. I mean, for the most part, it's with me at all times. So, the thought being that, sometimes our extra duty pay is 2.5. And so if everybody was given an opportunity to pay $100 for an iPad or something like that, I'm thinking they'd take advantage of it. I know there are other schools that have done similar things, and I think people are very appreciative of it. And the reality of it is that then you're shifting. It's like a mechanic comes to a shop with their tools. And our teachers would very much appreciate a little assistance with that. I think it'd be better for everyone if they had their own.
When the teachers get to the cloud, or they're at home, they're trying to connect to the cloud, I get lost in all the million gigs, 10 million gig speeds that you talk about. I'm assuming that's fast. They're going to be limited to their speed at home of how fast they can get stuff. So let's say they're going to get onto QuickBooks. Is he going to have to read QuickBooks through their internet card that's going to take forever and it be to where I'm not going to use it?
Yeah, basically, one of the advantages of the thin client is you're not actually uploading and downloading software. You're just actually sending basically keyboard and mouse and screen data back and forth.
So would it be similar to surfing the net?
It's more like, I don't know if you've used any other remote products like Microsoft Office Online. When you use Microsoft web-based Office, if you have a Hotmail account and use SkyDrive, you're actually keying into what looks to you like you've got Word installed locally, but it's on the cloud. So even if you have a very old computer that takes 30 minutes to boot up and slow internet access, it still feels responsive because it's running in that end and not running locally. You're just sending screen images and keyboard and mouse data.
My home computer is still running Windows 3.1.
As long as you've got a new enough web browser that you can communicate with. Sometimes that's the trick, but it is important. You do have to obviously have an internet connection, and it does, generally speaking, need to be something better than dial-up, because the few companies left that are offering dial-up, usually you're dealing with such slow equipment on their side that it doesn't really pass the screens sufficiently. But since you're running it on our servers, no matter where you're located, that not only gives you a better experience and it feels faster to you, but it gets away from the license problem. You know, we couldn't give every student Microsoft Office, but since it's physically running here in our computers, they get to use all of those. But as long as you've got internet that you can actually do typical things like online banking and shopping, it's more than enough to do this type of activity. Because in fact, when we set it up here, the little Verizon wireless Wi-Fi, they typically are running at about the same speed as you have through some of these other service providers like LV Wi-Fi or others like that. So.
The only time you might get into a problem is if you've got your licensing for Microsoft Word. You've got 1,000 licenses, 1,001 students try to access it at one time. That's where your diligence to make sure we got enough of them out there to.
On that end, we control the licenses and bump them up as we see there's a need for them. But with some of these new things, like Microsoft giving the basic Office to schools pretty much at no cost through SkyDrive, that's allowed us to save a lot of money that we used to spend on licenses like that. And it's more efficient because the odds of 1,000 students logging in at once are pretty remote. Even if you have 2,000 students, some of them are probably either off, getting stuff together, they're not actively logged in and using it at the moment, or they're taking a break. So since the servers can multitask and shift between users, you can more efficiently share a small pool of licenses and let more people have it. It's just like the phone company, there's not enough capacity if every resident in Vernia picks up the phone at once. You can't call, but you never feel there's a limitation because that never happens. By normal human activity, some pick up the phone at the time others have hung it up. So,
You take it on cell phone once in a while, did it?
Yeah, it did at times.
You call it and say you do your request right now.
Well, I asked Alan to come back and visit again because we've done more work than just the infrastructure. And we realized that we were behind when we started the school year, and the planning took more time, and we recognized that we were behind on this. We're trying to move it, just like the letter I sent y'all last week. So we need to get it moving, and Diane, you signed a PO today, I believe, for the iPads, and Alan's going to be putting together the other things which we've done recently. Hopefully within, what, a month?
Yes.
Month?
Should be, we should receive everything within about 4 weeks, typically sometimes less. So within a month, we should have time to receive them and have them operational. And as you know, sometimes the hardest part, since this package has training from Apple, is getting it scheduled where we can get the professional development, get everyone in. But that's a real key, so we're working on finding innovative ways to do that. And one thing in closing I want to let you know, just so you don't get the wrong impression, there's always people that for various reasons aren't going to be able to have internet at home, either because of where they live or simply because of budget. So there'll always be a need for something like these USB, memory sticks. But what we've done is where we found the need, like at junior high where they needed access in an area that didn't have it, we put in some machines that were able to access them. So we're going to be keeping here and there some machines that we'll set up specifically for students to use these with that have enhanced antivirus that can do better scanning than a typical computer can do on them. So we always have to make sure we leave kind of a back door open for those that may not yet have the ability to access the internet. But because most people have some type of iPad or iPhone or something with internet access, that's becoming less and less of a concern than it once was.
And going back to your question, could you talk about the labs and the computers that Sherry Booz recently told us that she needed some assistance with, around Christmas time in that range, and we were able to find.
Yeah, we just put in, I believe, 30 new.
Sherry, was it 30?
Every single teacher got a brand new computer.
So that goes back to what I was talking about, the principal pushing and asking for the things, and that's how it happens. And so we're very appreciative of Sherry also doing that, and it's made all the difference.
It's helped a lot.
Well, thank you all.
is 7:34. We will convene in the executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code, Section 551.074, personnel matters.